Eddie, you going to union meeting this Arvo?
Yeah, I'll be there.
Good, I'll see you there then, mate.
Next meeting, there's a couple of things I want to raise skilling up some of the island boys.
Oh, yeah, well, if you want to raise stuff, mate, do it yourself. Hey, you've got a voice, haven't you?
The era of the film has progressed to Townsville, 1967, and Eddie is working frantically on the boat. He seems excited about the union meeting, and his overall motivation emanates from the speed of his actions and the speed of his voice when he talks about the issues he wants to raise at the meeting. The union chairman telling Eddie, well, if you want to raise stuff, mate, do it yourself. You've got a voice, haven't you? Is actually a form of recognition and respect. He is telling Eddie that in this union environment, his voice and opinion is worth something, and he doesn't have to rely on the white man speaking for him in order to be heard. This also contrasts the earlier statement that we help you blokes by helping our own, which suggested that Eddie would only receive favours by providing them. In this latter scene, it seems he has earned the respect of the union to an extent that he can voice his matters without them imposing expectations upon him in return. This reflects greater equality in this environment.
What's a 4X's 2, 4, 6? Thanks, mate.
5.
Oh, no, 6. 6, mate.
Respect for Eddie is also shown with the union chairman ordering drinks for everyone, including Eddie, without a second thought to the restrictions upon Indigenous people in the bar. He also presses the matter with the barman. The diegetic talking sound fades out while they're conversing. Since the words don't matter to Eddie, it's the same story every time. The union chairman and other men with them all leave with Eddie empty-handed as a sign of unity, and the chairman places a hand on Eddie's back as reassurance. This all shows that within the union, Eddie is considered to be one of the members and not an outsider, this being one of the reasons why he fights so hard for union matters. Varying responses from the bar patrons and barman can be observed when Eddie stages his protest. The bearded patron closest to him gives him a nod, which he reciprocates, showing a sense of acknowledgement as opposed to ignoring him and his rights. However, none of these patrons stand up for Eddie. They remain seated, accepting Eddie's situation as the norm.
Come on, mate.
What you can read, brother? Sorry to hear that.
Mate, it's not me, it's the law.
The barman scoffs at Eddie with a bit of a smile, which does come across as patronising. In response, Eddie mocks him by saying, "What, you can't read, brother? I'm sorry to hear that." The barman, although initially he seemed to be enjoying his power over Eddie, defensively states, "Mate, it's not me, it's the law." This seems to be a similar attitude to the other patrons, where collective inaction results from deflecting their personal role in the situation to a higher legal power. Eddie lighting his cigarette is actually another motif within the film, as whenever Eddie requires greater calm and resolve before a major protest, he is often seen lighting a cigarette to perhaps quell his impulsive and easily agitated nature. panning camera with an increasing crowd particularly captures the pouring and drinking of beer and the presence of beer glasses. The non-diegetic soundtrack of violins also exacerbates the sadness, and the viewer is likely to become frustrated that despite so many drinks and patrons, no one helps Eddie get his beer, which, when viewed in terms of the alcoholic beverage and not the overriding system that prevents him from getting it, it seems a relatively small ask.
Norma, Eddie's not back from work yet. He said they got a union meeting. Would you mind minding the kids while I go to work? They've had their tea.
No worries, love. I'll bring my...
Just trying to get down the steps of her house leaves Benita out of breath due to her heavily pregnant state. She holds onto the stair railing and the fence railing for support, her sheer size suggesting that she is at a stage of pregnancy where she should be resting. Her neighbour Norma is standing on higher ground than Benita. Even though Norma is very helpful in offering to look after Benita's children and shows personally a lack of discrimination, Benita will always be at a position of disadvantage to Norma due to their skin colour and social standing. The camera tilting up from the buckets of prawns takes in Benita's pregnant belly, intruding over the table. Yet she is still working with a slight smile on her face, in between the occasional grimace of discomfort. Benita has the sort of personality type that tries to be strong and display a positive outlook even in the most difficult of times. Meanwhile, the only white worker in the room seems to be pausing momentarily with a sense of disillusionment at the buckets of prawns she's about to lift and carry away, almost as if she can't believe she has to do this work and doesn't want to go on. This contrast suggests that the Aboriginal people have had to accept their place at the bottom of the work environment and thus make the most of it, whereas a white worker in the same situation is plagued by the constant self-questioning and regrets as to why they are working alongside this so-called underclass of Australian citizens.